YouTube channel?
Sure.
Just as a CPAC attendee?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Excellent.
With my daughter.
So why don't you just start? Well, do you want to do it together?
I'm sure she doesn't want to. I don't think. Not really.
All right.
Come
Make
on.
you YouTube famous.
And what's it going to be on?
Okay. Just about why you're at CPAC and what freedom means.
Okay, that's fine.
So just start by telling us your name, where you're from, and why you're here today.
It's Ellen Papa from Richmond, Virginia, and for years now, have been paying pretty close attention to what's happening in our country, and it's very bothersome to me. And actually, my daughter, come here. The thing what happened, what I realized.
And you're inspiring her to get involved as much as possible, like with every interview, right? Oh, hey, there she is.
It's Alexa. She doesn't have to talk, but this is the thing that was bugging me. I realized that Mitt Romney wasn't going to be elected a couple days before the election because she had to do a paper for government about who was going to win and why. And when we went to research about Mitt Romney, there was nothing on the internet positive about him. I couldn't find anything unless you went to Fox News and the usual. And she wanted to try to find positive information about him just using regular media. And
Did he forget about the internet in his campaign? I mean, that would certainly explain why he lost.
Yeah, it actually, he didn't forget about it, but there's so many things that were written about him on the internet that were incorrect, and that kind of took over.
And everything about Obama on the internet was true, right?
Yeah, no, no, it wasn't. And so it's just very hard to determine what's true and what isn't, and that's what's kind of scares me. And so for my daughter, we try to dig a little bit deeper, and so that we can really figure out the truth and try to get the facts and try to just not take everyone's word for it.
Excellent. Well, that's what Adam versus the Man is all about. So let me ask, would you describe yourself as a conservative?
I am. I am actually a registered Democrat. I was an actress years ago.
Is that by accident of history?
Yeah, no. When I'm a member of the Screen Act. I'm an actress. I was, and so I was a registered Democrat always. But then I started just digging deeper, and just wanting some questions answered. And I realized that what I was being told wasn't always the truth, and so I wanted to make my own decision. And I felt like what's the direction for our country is not the best for our country, and it worried me. And so I want to make sure my daughter knows the truth as well, and digs a little bit deeper. And whether it's Republican or Democrat, I just want her to make the right decision for our country.
So, what does it mean to be a conservative?
It means to be able to have choices, to know that we are exceptional, that we come from an idea from God, and that we should have the most amazing country with liberty and the ability to be able to be as big as we want to be, or as little as we want to be, and make our own destiny without someone telling us or stopping us from doing it.
So, you believe in freedom. What is freedom?
Well, it's being able to make my own choices and not being told from the littlest thing about what size of soda I should drink, to who I should vote for if I want to own a gun. It's just all those things that all of a sudden, little by little, are starting to happen, and it's just happening more and more and more, and sliding over a little bit more and more.
Are there any appropriate limits to someone's freedom? Is there any way that anybody has ever justified in saying that freedom you shouldn't have if it's something that really is someone's individual right to do, like as an exercise of their own individual rights?
I mean, I'm sure. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I don't really know is my answer.
Well, let me suggest one, because you talked about digging and getting to the heart of matters, getting to the truth, right?
Right.
You said you believe in voting, right? Do you believe in the electoral process in America?
I do. I think that I'm worried also. The other thing that worries me about voting, you hear about things, and I have to dig deeper on this as well, that this time around with the election, that the people, active military, had a hard time getting their ballots in, and that there was some problems there, and their voice wasn't heard. And so just things like that worry me as well.
Well, so you believe in the concept of democracy?
Oh, of course.
Well, that sounds like it's a really dangerous limit on people's freedoms if you have a system where the majority gets to make decisions for everybody, and then the votes of the minority or the will of the minority is taken away by the political system that results. Do you see a problem with that?
You mean because the people who represent us are the ones that are making the decisions? Is that what you mean?
Well, the general public or the majority votes for something or for a certain politician to be in charge of them and to have some authority, and the minority says, no, we don't want that. We want to be free of that, or we want a different leader, or we want a different policy. Isn't it an impingement, an infringement on their freedoms, on their rights, to say, well, if the majority decides, sorry, you're just going to have to go along with this policy. The collective has made the decision, and so we're just going to force you to go along with it. Isn't that an affront to individual freedom?
So you mean the collective making the decision on who they voted for, right, and which they determine what? I guess that's what elections are about.
But
right?
Then you're violating people's freedom to force them to be a part of this collective.
Well, that's why we need to get people into the government who believe that not to have to force people into making and these laws that are arbitrary.
Well, if there's no forcing people into arbitrary laws, what else does government do?
They make sure that we're safe as a country. That's their number one thing. It is to keep us a safe and prosperous country. That's the bottom line.
It seems like everything the government does actually ends up having the opposite effect, though. I mean, the founders of this country said a number of things about defense and about the nature of democracy, and democracy is like two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner, and they said that we would be better off without a standing army, with free peoples being able to form militias, that the way to defend ourselves would be to respect private property and to be able to empower individuals to defend private property, not to have a standing army with the government. And it seems like when you've given that power to the government, you're inherently violating people's freedom. If they decide that they don't want to pay for that, or that they don't want to be a part of that, they're by this collective process forced into the system. Don't you think that's a violation of people's freedom?
Like a libertarian type of thinking?
Well, it's more like a philosophical approach. When we talk about getting to the deeper truths, actually examining what freedom really means. And freedom, to me specifically, is the ability to exercise my rights without interference. Again, I think it was Jefferson, or maybe it was Franklin. The right to swing my fist ends where your nose begins, right? And anytime you say, well, we have to have a collective, or we have to have a democracy, and this is or a republic based on democratic principles, though, based on a system of forced collective in voting, it seems like you run this great hazard of empowering people in the monopoly of force of government to violate people's rights.
Well, I can tell you this. I mean, we can get into philosophical argument or discussion. I don't have all these answers and have deep, big arguments about this. All I know is that the basics, and that right now I'm feeling like the people who are looking out for us aren't making decisions that are looking out for us.
Maybe they're not really looking out for us.
And that's my fear. And that's the bottom line. I love this country.
It's a good fear.
I love this country so much. I love the people, and I love everything that it...
Can I ask you a question about that? Because this gets to, like, I feel that there are a lot of conservatives who are frustrated because it's no matter what happens in the political process, no matter how many conservatives get sent to Congress, government keeps growing, it keeps getting bigger and bigger, right? Maybe it's because conservatives buy into this collectivist idea that we should be a country, we should be a forced collective, we should be patriots, that allows that to be possible. And if anything, you say you love the country, and I can appreciate saying, I hate the government, but I love the country. But when you say that, you're talking about an area that's described by lines drawn on the map by politicians. Does your love end at the American border?
No, absolutely not. And I'm not even crazy about, I don't even care about politicians. I just care about people that care about this country. Other people do care about their country's number one as well.
So your caring stops at the border? After the border you don't care as much?
Yeah.
See, I think that's the problem. I think we've been convinced that we only need to care about people in this collective, and while we are all victims of the federal government by being subjects of it, we are buying into the very premise of it when we say we need elections, we need patriotism, we need this country to be strong, as opposed to we need a real understanding of what freedom is in a philosophical and in a truest sense possible, and see how that applies as a universal law, like the respect for individual rights to all human interactions, but especially those when you talk about the coercive government coming in that violates people's rights.
Well, I get all that, and I agree with all that, but I do think that it's got to start somewhere, and I think there's no better place than the United States of America for that to start.
Or CPAC 2013. Thank you so much. That was a blast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I don't want to have a huge that if I didn't do anything wrong and I didn't even get a say in it.
Good damn question.
Fuck! Fuck, fuck, fuck.